In this video, we're installing an injector harness and timing sensors. This is the injector harness looking from the plug end. Each connector goes to an injector and it's labeled 1 for injector 1 at the front of the engine, 2 for injector 2, and so forth. I have tried putting them upside down and the injector still works, so they go on either way, but they have to go on the right injector. So number 1 has to go on number 1, but you can have the number facing down, they still work. These are the bolts that hold the harness in and the injector nuts. The harness gets bolted in like that. Those bolts are torqued to 13 Newton meters, so is the plug through the cover. The injector nut has 2 nuts through a plastic plate and they don't fall out normally, they're supposed to stay all together. And you run them down and torque them to 2.5 Newton meters per nut. You can use a screwdriver with a socket on the end of it. Just beware that it is possible to over tighten them if you have a strong grip. These Mew injectors can last 10,000 hours easily, and you might be pulling them out a few times depending on what goes wrong with the engine. So it's a good idea just to torque it to spec, that way you don't damage anything on the injector. Go through one by one and tighten all the injector nuts, and that's the harness installed and secured. This is the rocket cover gasket. I'm just placing this on for now, and we're going to move to installing the timing sensors. The engine has 2 timing sensors, one for the crank, one for the camshaft. Sometimes they're called speed sensors, sometimes they're called position sensors. They have a metal plate. I've already removed the bolt, and they're made out of plastic. You can try and pry them out or just pull the plug. They wiggle out fairly easy once you've removed the bolt. We're putting new ones on this engine. Always a little bit of dirt gets behind the plug and the O-rings, so give that hole a clean up before you install a new one. This is the cam timing sensor, new O-ring. This one comes with a short harness. They don't always, especially on industrial engines, but this one does for a loader. Has a metal plate, as I said, so you just push that in and then install your bolt. The cam and the crankshaft sensor, they look exactly the same. They're a different part number. You cannot put one in the other spot, so don't put the cam sensor in the crank position because it will not work. Moving down to the crankshaft, I've already pulled this one out when we were disassembling the engine. If it's on a loader, make sure that you put a new timing sensor in on a rebuild, because it is impossible to get back in there. You'll have to pull all the front apart to try and get in there. You've got this trunnion bracket or front mounting bracket. It's just so hard to get your hand in there, and it's just so easy to do it when the engine's out, and that will last the entire life of the engine. And the bolts get torqued to 30 Newton meters each. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section.